Today we are going to be making a large 20-inch by 30-inch custom metal print. A friend of mine is decorating his house, and I said, I think I know a guy that can help you out. So we're making two of these. I've already made one of them. I'm going to show you the other one right here. Very cool print. He is a motocross rider, and it's an image of an event they put on called JBR Best Whip. It's going to go up in his house. Very cool photo. Start by grabbing my panel out from under here. Kind of hard to get at. So I'm going to take this panel here. I'm going to pull off all this plastic coating on it. It's always a little bit tricky to pull off because you can't touch this panel at all. You don't want to get any fingerprints or dust on it, so the way you pull it off is a little bit tricky. Sometimes it rips and your fingers go through it and you get a little print on it. You got to wipe it off. Just make sure it's clean. It's not a big deal if you touch it. Just make sure to wipe it off. Set this here. Pull this over. This image was very hard to print. It took a long time because it's so dark. These dark photos, they print very slowly. Someone said if I connect a cable to it from my computer to my printer, it'll go faster. I have it wireless right now, so that's just how it goes. I can't run a wire because it'll be in the way. I'll be stepping on it. Don't want that. I'm going to take this panel. I'm just going to lay it over this piece of paper, getting everything lined up. For these big prints, I print a 0.3-inch bleed edge all the way around. For the smaller ones, I do a 0.2. I'm not sure it makes a difference, but just the bigger print, I'm allowed to. It allows me to have a slightly larger bleed edge because the photo is so much bigger. Just gonna make sure that everything is even all the way around. Check this a couple times just to make sure. And I tape all the corners down and all the sides, so I put 8 pieces of tape on it for these. This just allows the panel to sit real tight to the paper. I don't want it moving at all. For the smaller ones, you can usually just do 4, but big ones I like to do 8, just to be sure. Last thing you want to do is mess one of these up. It's a lot more expensive to mess this up than something small. It takes a lot longer too. I mean, these prints they take so long to print, you don't want to mess one up because it just wastes so much time. That one, and final corner, then it's done. And as you can see when I flip this here, the paper sits much more tight. It's not going to flop around or anything. You don't want any dust getting in here or any of that before you put it into the heat press. This is the other one that I made yesterday. I can't really show you it because it's already wrapped up and the customer's going to get it soon, but I will show you the other one that's very similar to the first one. Now I just need a 34-inch piece of paper for the heat press. This one is going to go on the top. I always have to cut one of them because it gets ink on it. Just measure it out and cut it. It might have been a little too short. I think I actually cut that at 23 or 33. We're going to drop this panel right into the press here. Not a lot of room on this press with these panels. 20 by 30-inch panel, 32-inch heat press. So there's only an inch on both sides. You got to make sure everything is perfectly lined up because this rubber mat here can move sometimes. And so if it's misaligned and you think that this panel is in here perfectly, sometimes it's off and you could mess that up. And I'm going to put this paper right over the top of it. Fits good. I thought I cut it too short. Now that it's all set, I'm just going to put this down for 5 minutes at 350 degrees, and when that's done, I'll be ready to put the frame on it. This thing is done. I'm going to take it out of here and let it cool down. Remove this, and then grab gloves because it's 350 degrees. You don't want to touch this at all. Have done that in the past. It doesn't feel good. So I kind of slide it out like this. I don't want to grab the paper on top just in case it pushes down because it is hot and you could mess up the ink transfer. I have seen that in the past. When I first got started, I had grabbed a few of them and slid the paper a little bit and it actually messed up the print. Another thing is you can just pull that paper off right when you open the heat press and that works just as good. For the sake of the video, I didn't bother, but a lot of times that is what I do. Need all our materials. I'm going to build this frame now. This is a 14-inch by 24-inch frame. Goes on the back side. You cannot see it. It is a floating frame. grab 4 corner pieces, and then what I do is I just put all these screws in. If you've watched these videos before, you've seen me do it. It takes a minute, but it's not too bad. This job would probably be better, honestly, for a lot of women to do because they got smaller thumbs. It's not that easy to put these little tiny screws into here. I can't really grab them that well. Or I guess if you're a guy with like small hands. So I take one of these corner pieces and then this screw piece, and they act as a somewhat like a spacer, I guess. I put it in, and then I just tighten it down. I set them in snug, but I don't tighten them down tight. Put that one in, then put this one in here, and then I do this bottom one separate on its own, because if not, you will have a hard time locking them in all the way around. So I put them both in this one, and then I just slide it up. Perfect, just like that. Another thing with these screws is you have to screw them down evenly, because if you do just one side all the way down and try to do the other, it tightens too much, and then you won't be able to get it up level. And then once they're all set in, I just crank them all down as tight as I possibly can. I don't want it to be able to shift at all, because it's a big panel. There's a lot of leverage on that, and so if these aren't tight, you're going to be able to twist it, and that's not what you want. I was thinking earlier today about how when you're doing something for a long time, you kind of find these little micro wins in your day-to-day or maybe week-to-week where you just get a little tiny bit better than you were before, like 0.5% better. And I had mentioned this not too long ago in a shorter video, and some people pushed back on it. They said, well, sublimation printing is all the same. Printing in general is all the same. You don't have to make thousands of them to get great at it. You can do that very quickly, actually. And I think there is truth to that, obviously. I mean, the machines do most of the work. But I really didn't like that mindset at all, because it just makes you feel like you're never going to stop getting better at it. And what I have noticed is spending a lot of time, like the more and more I make these prints, the better I do get, because the little things I learn that I think are almost more important than the big stuff overall. Like, you're going to spend a lot of time trying to figure out the basics of this, but once you've got the basics, all your time is going into figuring out that 0.5%, that 1%, those little tiny things that get better that actually make a huge difference overall. I think a lot of that goes untalked about because the basics are what we want to learn. They don't take that long to learn though. Like, it's not that much work to get the basics down. It's a lot of work to get that final 10% filled in, that final 20%. I think that takes years, and that takes thousands and thousands of repetitions in my book. So for me to even sit here and think that I am anywhere close to where I want to be, I think would be ridiculous. I feel like there's a lot more to learn overall because I've probably only made hundreds of these. So I've got a lot more to make. That's just more advice to myself, is like, don't limit yourself into thinking you know everything. Think that you almost don't know anything and keep trying to learn as much as possible, because that allows you to get better. And it might only be that 1% difference from you and somebody else that makes all the difference. Like, they only have to make one decision. Is it with you or is it with them? I just think that 5% is so important when it comes down to the details of everything. Like, is your tape on straight so that it's not hanging off when the customer looks on the back of it? You can see a little tab there. Are the corners, are they sitting flush together? These ones don't, right? So over time, maybe I can find frames that sit really, really tight together. People say that doesn't matter, but those little things add up and they really, really matter. So it's not that you're going to solve them today, but you're going to try to solve it over time. You're going to work at it. You can solve your big ones first, your big problems. You're going to slowly work your way down the list to these minor problems that make up a major problem. Okay, this print is all done. If it's all cooled down, I haven't even pulled the paper off it yet, so I don't know what it looks like. It looks awesome. Came out great. All the colors look really good on it. The lighting, I'll show you it. I used to have a really tough time with black colors. They didn't print well, and then some lady sent me a link to ICC profiles, things that you just mess with on your computer, and now it prints perfect. I don't know anything about it, so I can't talk about it too much. I just know that it worked really well. This is what it looks like. So now we're gonna put the frame on it. I also used to not put frames on these. When I first got started, I had these little MDF aluminum frames, or not frames, they were blocks that you put on the back, and they did not look nearly as nice as these aluminum ones. These totally stepped it up. Obviously they cost a lot more, but completely worth it for me. Okay, drop this paper down here. Just roll it all the way out so that that image can fit on it. And I'm gonna set it right here, lay it down. I try to leave about an inch all the way around so that I can fold it over and tape it down when I'm ready. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it to be nice. You kind of want it to be clean when it's done, so cut off the excess and try to cut it straight as possible. I've got some corner pieces coming that'll allow me to line up these frames a lot faster, but for now I'll keep using this ruler until it's ready. I go 3 inches down on these and 3 inches in. I just mark a dot on both sides of it, and then once those are in, I make sure that, so they're straight and level, close enough, they're not perfect. And then I take this frame and I pull all the tabs off of it. Basically I make a tab. I pull it halfway down, crease it to the outside, and then I do that all the way around, making sure to do a lot on one corner so that it can stick. Because I push it down, that's where it holds it. And then I do a little bit on these ones, like just enough to grab them really. I don't want them sticking down when I put the panel on yet. Then you lay it here. I line the dots up with each corner. This is just rough. This isn't perfect at the moment. And what I do is I press down this corner and then I measure it. And then I can see where it is. Pull this off. And that is level. Okay, perfect. That is nice and level. Press that down, and then I can pull all these tabs off. Not worry about it moving at all. Press this down. I usually press this quite a bit because I'm worried that they are gonna fall off if you don't. So, just gotta make sure they're all set. It says 24 hours to let this adhesive like really set on the backside. I don't know how true that is, but they hold very well. They're very strong. This is a more close-up look of what the frame actually looks like on the back. Very sturdy, adds a lot of support. You screw this to the wall, and then it slides in just like that. You can put it wherever you want, move it, but it sits nice and flush on the wall. This is all done. Came out really great. Love the way it looks. I think it's time to hop in the truck and go make a delivery.